Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kevin Cahill. I'm an Alliance Director at Sitecore, and I'm here today with Glenn McInnes, Vice President of Technology from Nonlinear Digital. Today, Glenn will be showing you a best-of-breed intranet solution designed to maximize your organization's productivity and collaboration. This solution is built on the Sitecore platform and is integrated with Telligent, an enterprise social community platform for those unfamiliar with it. We'll be sending out a recording of today's webinar, and we ask that you please save your questions until the end, where we'll address them during our Q&A period. In the interest of time, I'm going to let Glenn take it from here.
Thanks, Kevin. So just by way of introduction, as Kevin said, I'm the VP of Tech at Nonlinear. I've been doing Sitecore for almost 10 years at this point, and for a large part of that time, since 2008, I've been a Sitecore MVP. So all that to say, I live and breathe Sitecore, so feel free to fire those questions out into the chat, and we'll address those when we get to the end. We've left lots of time for Q&A. So just a little introduction to Nonlinear for those of you that do not know us. We're a full-service digital agency. We've been in business since 1995. Canadian company by origins. Ottawa and Toronto is where we started, but also have offices in the US, South America, and the UK. Sitecore is really kind of our core content management marketing technology platform, and constitutes the kind of our go-to-market approach for anything digital marketing related. So three things I want to leave you with today. Really is that the Sitecore Experience platform can be the foundation of a world-class intranet. You know, we always think of Sitecore for websites, of course, but it can be an excellent intranet. And the personalization and the engagement tools that are in Sitecore XP are not just for customers, but employees. So it's about employee engagement, not just customer engagement. And finally, Nonlinear has some proven approaches and technology that can help you accelerate your intranet deployment. And that's really what we're going to show you today, is some of that stuff that we've pre-built and can help you get started faster. So I wanted to quickly cover those three technology platforms that are part of the overall solution, Sitecore, Telligent, Coveo. I think most people are probably familiar with Sitecore. Telligent maybe a little less so, and Coveo, I find it depends. So let me just kind of lay out why we think the three of these in combination make sense, and why we recommend the three of them in concert. So Sitecore, as we know, is really an engine to drive experience for the customer, for the employee. You know, its core strengths, its historical strengths, obviously world-class content management, but also being able to deliver personalized content and tracking behaviors on the site. Where Telligent comes into play is the other side of that coin. It's the user-generated content, it's the communities. So the idea of groups and teams, chats, forums, social Q&A, activity streams, the social aspect of an intranet. And layering those two together make for a very powerful combination. And then finally, we bring in Coveo. And this is because most intranets need search, but when you're searching in an intranet context, it's usually much more than just one or two systems. There's many systems across the organization. You need to reach in, pull content, and that's where Coveo, of course, really shines. As an enterprise search platform, it's got connectors for 40, 50 products, I think, at this point. It can go talk to them, consolidate all those results. And then in the more advanced versions of the product, has abilities for automatic relevance and machine learning. Okay. So just a quick level set on those platforms for those of you that may not know them. And then just a few things specifically on Telligent, just because I'll throw these terms out quickly as I go through the demo. And probably the core one is this idea of a group intelligent. Some people might call them sites or subsites, but it's the idea that you can define an area inside your community, control who has access to it, and what type of content is in there. As I mentioned, you can do groups and subgroups, so you get this hierarchical approach. So this comes into your planning for your information architecture and your security. And then once you have your groups, you can configure applications. And applications are exactly like what they sound like, things like a wiki or a chat. But then just as importantly, groups also have a notion of an activity stream, or a way to notify users about what's going on in those groups. Okay. Again, just a quick snapshot of some of the more commonly used Telligent features and apps that you can deploy inside groups. We've mentioned forums, a question and answer for the tech folks on the phone, think Stack Overflow, managing ideas, bringing the best ones to the top, calendars, chat, comments, ratings, polls, all that stuff that you would expect in a social platform. There's other good stuff then behind the scenes, things like leaderboards, setting up email digests, all the moderation is there. And they've also got connectors like their SharePoint connector, same as we see with the Sitecore platform. So we'll get the slides out of the way. We'll jump into the demo. And go from there. So I'm just going to log in. You're looking at a Sitecore installation here. So I'm just going to log in as my user, Ben, my demo user. So this is a Sitecore instance running our Keystone Intranet product, which is also connected to a Telligent backend to drive some of those social behaviors. So let me just start with kind of orienting you on what you're seeing here. We've modeled this demo after our own company, after Nonlinear. So we're a services organization. We think, for the most part, in terms of departments or a line of business. They do projects, and we work with clients. So those are kind of our core concepts. So as I walk through, those will be kind of the frame of reference for you to keep in mind as I look at some of these examples. So let's just pull a little bit of the page apart, take a look at what's going on here. So in our header, we've got several areas where we can see notifications coming out. So notifications are essentially updates from the community. So for example, I've joined a number of groups in Telligent here, and it's some time ago in this particular case. It's also showing me new conversations and messages from the community. There is also the ability to show unread email up here as well. I've just disabled it for the demo so folks don't see my email. We have access to our profile, of course, our own personal calendar, the idea of favorited or bookmark content, and anything that we're following or watching. We'll dig into those a bit later. And then kind of in this pullout, just because it's nonlinear, we still use Office 365 for some specific things, namely our email. We've kind of pinned some of those in here to the apps. And then there's also a quick access to our favorites here, as well as the favorites page itself. So let's drive in a little bit here. So of course, the idea of a profile on an intranet changes from company to company, but the idea is, any profile page should surface, a picture, possibly basic information about the user, their department, their email. This is very configurable. We've left this trimmed down for the demo. You would define what you would want on this page, and then it would be set up. That profile data often comes from Active Directory or a third-party system, and we can synchronize it in. So depending on your situation, we can deal with that. Since I've logged in as Ben, of course, I have the ability to look at my account, update any of the information here. Again, for the demo, we've left this open just so we could show it the ability to update it. But of course, certain fields would probably be locked down. I wouldn't be able to decide I want to change departments without my manager's approval. Again, you would configure what fields you would want on here, but the notions of manager, department, office location, all of those are pre-existing, they're pre-built, and then it's just a question of understanding which ones you might want to extend. So Ben's got access to his profile. He can update that. Other users can obviously view his profile, see what Ben is interested in, and possibly follow him. We've integrated the notion of a calendar as well. So you can see our webinars actually showing up here in this demo environment. The calendar is pulling content from Sitecore, but this calendar component will also pull calendar data from Exchange or from Office 365 as well. So this would be my own personal calendar in a live environment and show me essentially the fact that I'm in the webinar right now and I need to go to a meeting at 2:30 this afternoon. So very configurable. If you've got other calendaring systems, it will work with Google calendars as well, and then others can be custom integrated. Last kind of two areas that are here under the profile area that I'll call it is the idea of favorites. It's exactly what it sounds like, so we'll move on pretty quickly. You can essentially bookmark anything on the site. It lives here in the list. And then the idea of following or watching content. So I'll spend just a moment on this. The way we've constructed the Sitecore Telligent solution is that notion that you can follow users or you can follow content. When you follow content, when it's updated, you get either an update in your activity stream or you get an update via email, depending on how it's been configured. So we see this as a very common use case when you've got knowledge bases, like procedures, policies that a CSR might be using on the phone when they're talking to a customer, or a health and safety representative needs when there's an incident, that kind of stuff. That gets automatically sent out through various means. You can also do RSS as well if you want. So the notion of follow content there. The navigation itself, again, this would be something you would define as part of your own implementation. We've organized it for the sake of the demo, just in an area about news and events. Departments, digital is our division inside Nonlinear that does the Sitecore implementations. Enterprise does SharePoint, for example, and then kind of your more traditional groups. If we look more closely at digital, we've set up a few areas. There's an area about the people, so you can see who's members. There's our practice areas, so the groups responsible for different service offerings, for example, our technology practice, which I'm responsible for. A project area, and then a secure area as well for members of the digital division to look at information that is locked down specifically to that team or that group. So what we'll do is we'll jump back to the homepage just for a moment, and what I want to do is pull up perhaps just an event to walk you through how we think about targeting content as a starting point on an intranet. So probably the more common requirements we see is, news, events, and content writ large. Is it appropriate for the entire organization? Is it, quote unquote corporate? Is it for a specific department or division? Or is it maybe applicable to a particular location? Maybe some content is applicable to Nonlinear's Canadian offices, but it's not applicable to our UK office. So we're able to tag and segment content that way. And you see that manifested in one way here on the home page, where you've got corporate events and department events. Same idea with news in both flavors, and of course the ability to go and find more in the archive and drill through those. Lots of features on the intranet about surfacing information about employees. You can see some of that here, the idea of employee of the month, new employees, anniversaries. Our two founders are who I placed there for the moment. But the ability to, when you're looking at any user, if you click on the link, it will take you to their profile page. If you click on the search icon, it will search for any of their contributions to the intranet. So again, it'll execute that search, keeping in mind that search is always security trimmed. You can't see stuff that Amanda did if you don't have access to it. The search will take care of that for you. And then some example of graphs. What's an intranet, of course, without a dashboard or a graph? The components are set up in such a way that you can surface static data that you've loaded in Sitecore or Telligent, or you can also point these components at data sets, at tables, or at web services, and it can graph as well. So pretty flexible, and a fairly wide-ranging set of chart types. And then as we scroll down, we've got the boring footer, some public social channels, and if you're stuck, there's a help desk. So let's just jump into our webinar event here. And we'll not spend a lot of time on content. I think most folks on the phone are probably pretty familiar with how Sitecore manages content. So we've got some text, some images, all that good stuff. The idea, though, of isolated search or targeted search, so a search box that's here on the event that lets us target just events and nothing else, roll-ups of recent events. And then all content can be tagged as well with topics. So we have that notion of department and office location, but we can also apply topics. So I've tagged this one with tech and digital, for example, and it shows up in a couple places here on the UI. I'll click on one of those in a moment, but before I do, the other kind of component or type of information that we'll see often surface on an intranet. It's just knowing, when was this last modified, who owns it, to the admin, what version of this, and then we've, for the sake of the demo, put some buttons down here that would let you do the favoriting. So you can see I've actually already favorited this particular event. So if I click on any of these tags, like tech, for example, you can see it's jumped me over to the search results page. Again, search in the solution can be done with Solr. So we've unified Sitecore and Telligent together in Solr as one approach, or then you can possibly use Coveo as well, regardless of which underlying search technology you use. The ability to facet on content is configurable, and we've done it just on kind of the content type and the taxonomy as a starting point, but you can extend this and reconfigure this to be kind of whatever you would need or make sense for your users. Same goes for the display. So it's a very simple display here, but if you wanted to show previews of documents or show more information as part of the summary, then you can absolutely do that as part of the UI refinement of your particular solution. So maybe what we'll do next is we'll go take a look at the department area, and again, just kind of walk through a few different ways that you might assemble your intranet. Again, that idea of the department being there's some parts of the department site that is for public consumption and some is private to members of that particular group. So if we click on the digital one, we get some kind of repeating patterns here. So again, a search box that's targeted. This search box again knows it's on a department page. So when you search here, it will search only inside the digital content space. Again, for those of you that are familiar with Sitecore and are thinking, well, how does that work with the content tree? This does handle the situation of pages in the content tree and the media library. We've sorted that out for you. You don't need to worry about it. Highlighting some kind of key members of the team. And again, because this is really the public consumption, it's for the entire company, a little bit about the division and some key services. And since I'm a member of the digital group, I can actually enter the secure site. So again, all that, of course, controlled through Sitecore security. Really just a matter of thinking through your security model as you get that built together. So once we're in the secure area, then we've got, in this particular case, we've chosen to put some department news. We felt that was important for the staff. There's some key resources here, including some knowledge bases, a workbook, rate cards, stuff that's really specific, of course, to the division. And then again, as we go down, we get into metrics and graphs that would be specific to the to the department. A couple of things I'll just call out while I'm here and we're scrolling by. The idea of Sitecore managing documents is one I often get questioned about. Oh, I understand Sitecore's not good at managing documents. Well, that's not really true. Sitecore is great at storing almost any type of file. If you need to have access to share files, if you need to secure files, all that's built into Sitecore. It's native, and we've built components that let you surface all of that kind of functionality. The only thing you don't get with Sitecore is the idea that I edit a document while you edit a document. But if you're really trying to get that record up onto the intranet, control it, disseminate it, Sitecore is great at that kind of stuff. So some simple components here just showing, here's a list of new documents in the library, that pages, because there's too many recent documents that I've accessed, for example. And then as we go down, just some more content that we've called out that we felt was important for the division. So an area I'm going to jump into just to kind of reinforce that idea of, as I've been going through, I've not talked a lot about Telligent, but if you think of digital as a group in Telligent, there is that unified ability of when there's content changes being made in Sitecore, inside the CMS interface, Telligent is made aware of that and vice versa. So as we need to send notifications and updates, both systems are aware and it's unified and able to update users accordingly. So just kind of keep that in mind. If we go to perhaps the project page, simple example I'll call out here is, again, when we, in our actual live environment, we have a Telligent group for digital, we have a subgroup for our projects, and then inside that projects, obviously there's the list of all the projects. So some sample data in this case, not real stuff, but projects that are active, their project manager, their financial status. Same idea for past projects and the ability to page or search through them. But then just as importantly, here on the side is a component that's showing the activity feed coming out of Telligent. And that is essentially giving us updates on what's going on in that group from a social perspective and allowing us to surface those updates. So it surfaces in this component here that we've decided to place on this page. But again, those updates may also surface in these notification areas that are in the header as well. So that linkage is there, and this allows us to do that rich notification across both excuse me, across both platforms. So maybe one, we just jump into. So there was a page we had set up for the technology practice. I just wanted to call this out as one example of, again, how you can use Sitecore to manage files, share files, and get them out to the organization. So there's a component here on the page that we're using to store a few simple files. In this case, I can actually upload new ones. Like I could browse, pick them, upload them. That goes into Sitecore. I don't need to log into Sitecore. So this is not an editing thing. This is a user of the intranet can upload a file. But also based on my permissions, if I want to, I can download the file. I can kind of follow the file. So if there's updates to it, again, I get notified. And then finally, and probably the most popular feature amongst this is the idea of being able to share a file. So when we think of intranet, there's always the part of the intranet that is for employees and contractors, but then sometimes you need to get something to a partner or a customer, and how do you do that? So this is one of those aspects that is built into the intranet. If I want to share a file, pops up a dialog. This is modeled a little bit after Dropbox, I guess would be probably a common one, or Box. Opens up the sharing URL. I can download it. Again, I can follow it from here, or I can copy the share link. So it copies it to my clipboard, and then I'd be able to go paste it into an email, send it off to that partner or customer, and based on that secure code, they can access it, and nothing else. That's all they can get to. Don't need to log in, but that code will give them access. So again, that's another aspect of the intranet that often gets tweaked or adjusted based on each client's individual security concerns. But that notion of sharing files or sharing pages or sharing sections is something that we kind of inherently support. Then based on your security requirements, we can custom configure. As I've been kind of rushing through the different pages here, I've not called out many of the other Telligent functions, but you'll see here there is the ability to comment, for example, on the files. This is Telligent functionality, again, surfaced in Sitecore. Excuse me. And maybe on that note, what I'll do is I'm going to pop back to the kind of the main part of the intranet and go to one of our knowledge bases, just to cover some of the other ways that we've surfaced the Telligent social capabilities and surface that directly into the Sitecore interface. So let me go to my knowledge base, which I favorited handily. So again, that idea of the knowledge base, the curated record that you need to support a particular, again, someone in the call center, health and safety officer, teams doing projects, what have you. So I quickly set up a sample one that represents our Keystone product, really simple, 3 pages for now. Just a note saying, hey, you need to upgrade because Sitecore 9 is coming out soon, right, Kevin? A little bit about the knowledge base and who owns it. But just as importantly, what's going on this page is there's the ability to like it. There's the ability to rate it. You can, again, favorite or follow either just the page or the entire section. And if we were to look actually at a content page itself, we also have the ability to comment. And actually, we can see that Ben has previously commented on this saying, hey, can't we get a video? And he's probably right, because right now it just is some pretty simple text. So I wanted to call out those areas of content interaction on the internet, because I think what we see a lot of is most businesses are struggling with, okay, we produce this content, but how do we know if it's performing? And if we do get feedback, how do we manage it? What do we do with it? I think this is one of those places where that combination of Telligent and Sitecore's XDB play well together. So if any user on the internet likes, rates, comments, follows, it actually registers an event in Sitecore XDB. Again, for those of you that don't know, think that that's the analytics, that's the tracking aspect. And what that allows us to do is start to understand, well, these users are highly engaged. They get 1 point if they like, they get 2 points if they rate, they get 10 points if they comment. And it allows us to start to understand as owners of an intranet, you know, are they engaging with the content? And is the trend line up or down? And that allows us to then personalize to those users and hopefully improve our intranet writ large. So since we're here on the sample content page, again, the idea that you can edit this page, this would send you straight to the editing interface in Sitecore for this particular page, because it's more complex, it's got components. Simple pages can be edited directly by the author. They don't actually need to log into Sitecore, or sorry, directly edited by the employee. If they have access, they don't need to log into Sitecore, kind of like wiki style almost. And again, the idea that you can favorite the page, you can follow the page, or you can follow the entire section. And in this case, the section is actually the knowledge base, and I'll get updates as stuff happens. Simple example of a content component on here. As we all know, Sitecore is great at managing content. We'll not go into how you create pages. I'll just make the note that I'm showing a simple accordion component here, but there are about 125 content components we have pre-built in the solution that would allow you to essentially build out most content templates that you would need, or build them ad hoc by simply adding components. So with that kind of walkthrough of user-facing functionality, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back towards the actual Sitecore interface itself. And I'm going to focus on a couple of things. I want to quickly point out XDB and the experience profile and how that tracks. Talk a little bit about common personalization that we see and how we've extended some of the personalization conditions to address some of the capabilities we've added. And then from there, I might go and take, depending on time, we might go take a quick look at an actual use case of Telligent, and then we'll stop for questions. So again, I'm logged into my Sitecore installation here. This is Sitecore 8.2 for those of you that might care. And if I go to my experience profile and find Ben, who's been my sample user forever, we see here already, obviously we've got tracking of Ben over time, his profile picture because he updated an XDB, his name is getting updated. All of this kind of synchronizes in. But just as importantly, here's the example of, well, we know that the last event that Ben triggered was a like of the installation page. And he did that 14 hours ago. And because he liked it, if we scroll down here, we said that the like was worth 1 point of value, then well, his current engagement value is at 1. So this is one of those ways, again, you can start to profile people by assigning value to their interactions with the content. That's one model. There's many more models, of course, available to you in Sitecore as to how you might do that. But this is probably one of the more common ones that we see. It's almost the idea, if you will, of the leaderboard. Who are the lead contributors to your intranet community? I'll pull up the activity view just quickly before we move into the actual editing interface. Expand this out a little bit. This is the visit here You can see it's got a value of 1, so this is the one where he actually had clicked that like button. And just to pull this up for folks who are maybe not as familiar with Sitecore XDB, I just want to show you the level of detail that you have about the usage of your intranet when you've got the full version of the Sitecore experience platform deployed. So you see, which visit was this? How many pages did they view? How many times? What was the total time of the visit? And what value did they achieve? Now, you can see from this data, this was very obviously me just clicking around to populate data. But in a real situation, in real data, this would start to show you, your real usage patterns, see where people are abandoning, see what leads them to to the high value parts of your intranet. So page visits will track search as well. He hasn't performed any searches, and then you can also set up goals as well, so actual conversion points if you have such a thing on your intranet. So just a quick snapshot of some of the information that you can capture. Again, the custom parts that we're piping in here now would be the events that are about those interactions with the content. Did you trigger a like, a comment, those types of events. Go back to our control panel, and let's go into the desktop. And let's just open up the knowledge base. And we'll go into Sitecore's Experience Editor, and what I wanted to show here is just how easy it is to manage things like taxonomy and content and personalization. So we'll open this up in Experience Editor. So we can see the landing page of this knowledge base is made up of a bunch of different components in Sitecore. As we expect, we can personalize each of those components, which we'll get to. But to start with the basics, when you're over on the Keystone tab here, you've got quick access to essentially all the metadata on the page that drives those roll-ups and targeting behaviors. So there's content control, is one of them. And the content control area is what allows me to assign, well, this page is applicable to a particular department or a division. In this case, I've tagged it to digital. I wanted it to be applicable to everybody. I would leave it blank. I'll put digital back. Same idea for the location of the office. This content's not applicable to a particular office, so I've left it empty. And then the last two aspects of content control that are here is obviously as Sitecore, as you edit content in Sitecore, it will automatically update, the date that it was modified. It will automatically update who updated it. In an intranet, there's often the need to curate that and specifically assign a user and put a stamp on it from a date perspective because it may relate to some record elsewhere. So this allows you to do that. And if you set this, that's what will show up on that control that we were showing at the bottom of the page. So I've assigned myself as the owner, for example, of this content. All I need to do is click OK, and that updates that. The other kind of pieces of metadata that would be commonly managed just to control, again, kind of rolled up behaviors. The idea of meta description keywords still has an impact on search, even in an intranet scenario. Data, of course, that's in the index can change search behaviors. There is the idea of the control taxonomy as well. And so this page, being a tech guy myself, I had a topic for tech, and then under tech, I'd listed some of our vendors and platforms that we work with, and then tagged the content with Azure, Sitecore, Coveo. Well, I mistakenly missed Telligent, so we'll add them in there. Again, as simple as adding, removing. If you've been given permissions, of course, you can always add new tags to that taxonomy. And then the last two I'll call out here is just the idea of if you don't want content to be searched, no index, no search, that's essentially what that does. And you'd be off to the races. So I still want my page to be searched. We'll leave that on. So that gives you across the entire intranet, basic control of, is this for a department, a location, or is this applicable to a particular topic? And then this feeds into all of the search, all of the roll-ups that you can use to essentially build out your intranet. They're all aware of those notions. So I did want to cover, so all the content components that we've built as part of the intranet solution work under the assumption that you may want to personalize them. You do not have to. but if you choose to, they all fully support it. And to just show you some of the common examples, we open the personalization dialog by default. Of course, we want to show it. We want to show the content about the knowledge base. But then the more common scenarios would be things like, in an intranet, it's often security-based or something specifically in somebody's profile that you want to know. So I'll create an example of those just for a reference for folks. Maybe there is a case where the current user is a member of the specific role. So this is the idea of, if I look here, I'm connected to our Active Directory. So linear exec, this is the VPs and presidents at nonlinear. And if I wanted to say, well, the current user is a member of that role in Active Directory, maybe I want to hide that component. Or maybe I want to show different content. So that's all native to Sitecore, those conditions. That's pre-built, but pretty commonly used, I would say, in an intranet. Again, where we've extended some of these areas is that idea of, as you interact with content, those notions of groups, intelligent. So if I add up my rule again and we look at those examples, just got to scroll here. Hopefully this is big enough for people to read this. There's a whole variety here of conditions that you can place. So again, if you've known that someone has commented on a page or any of its children, if they're a member of a specific group. So again, if they're a member of, sorry, I should pause there. Not all groups intelligent are so tightly tied to the org structure like I mentioned. There's also often the use case where maybe there's a social club that's responsible for the office Christmas party in a particular office. They may have their own group intelligent too. There's use cases like that for sure. This would allow you to target people that were part of the Christmas party planning group. Again, that idea, if you followed, liked, rated, commented, there's a whole set of variations on any of these. And then there's others like, does this person have a new email? Do they have an upcoming appointment? Do they have new notifications? And then the other one that is, the other ones that are not in here right now but are coming with our release at the end of the month is also the notion of if you've achieved badges or you're on the leaderboard in the social aspect of the community, that's a feature that's native to Telligent, we'll also be able to trigger off of those as well. So you'd be able to say if Joe was a blogging master, then show him, and you could put like a big reward thing on his page for him just to say thank you for contributing to the blog. Those kinds of things are things that we continue to add so that we can more tightly link that experience. So again, those are the areas where we've kind of extended some of that personalization capabilities. You can always add more yourself depending on your use cases. But between the security kind of base one that I showed in initial and then the idea of how you're interacting with the content, probably the most common types of personalization that we would see on most intranets, at least at this point in time. So just looking at my own notes, I realized I skipped one part on the user view. So let me just go back quickly. And the one thing that I glossed over was the idea of a custom dashboard. So we've configured back here on the demo something we've called a My Page. Let me just delete this for a moment. So the idea is the administrator of the site defines a set of widgets that users are allowed to essentially place on the page, drag around, and kind of do whatever they want with. This is a simple example of it's on its own standalone page by itself for the sake of the demonstration, but you can really embed this capability anywhere you want on the intranet. It could be the home page. It often is the home page for many customers. But you can have multiple instances of this. Users can have multiple dashboards. So simple example was blank, like we said, and I wanted to add my events. I simply click it. And it's like, oh, events are important to me. I wanted to take up a bit more space. I can drag it out. I like that the way it is. I'll take it at a mode, and then there it is. So again, the power here is that we pre-built a bunch of widgets that can surface content from Sitecore, from Telligent, get it onto the page, let a user build their view. what is accessible to a user is something that you control and configure through security. So if you don't want people to have access to certain things, you can absolutely restrict that. But then where we see this often go is many businesses will have line of business or enterprise systems that they want to connect with and surface data. So you can absolutely create your own widget, plug it in, and register it as part of the dashboard. Last note, just kind of on this dashboard in general, if some of you have worked with Sitecore for a number of years, you may be wondering if this is the web parts framework. It is not. This is all MVC. This is something that we built specifically for Sitecore in its more recent version, so it's all MVC, and as you can see, it's all largely JavaScript based. So I think that covers kind of the big stuff in Sitecore from a user perspective, as well as kind of the key points from an authoring perspective. I'll just reiterate that when you install the Keystone Intranet product, there are 125 content components there. So when it comes to ability to manage content, we really are playing on Sitecore's strength there. We've pre-built the most common ones that you would need, and you can get that part of the Intranet running pretty quick. And then with Telligent behind the scenes to run the social aspect, that's also a pretty quick deploy. It's all pre-integrated. You can do single sign-on, and you're kind of ready to go. Maybe just for a point of reference for those that are maybe not as familiar with Telligent, I did want to point out, just watching time, that the Sitecore community itself is actually a Telligent installation. So again, an example of, and if you look at the Telligent site, they have an online community that's obviously based on their own product. But I wanted to bring this up mostly, again, just to show that we've kind of hidden Telligent behind the scenes in this demo. We've surfaced all the functionality that we need up into Sitecore, but some customers will have them running side by side potentially. And I just wanted to bring this up as an example where Sitecore has deployed it side by side with their main Sitecore.net site, and they've updated the branding to make it look like Sitecore.net or close enough. So again, just kind of calling out some of those same concepts of, there's 4 groups that I can see when I'm logged into Telligent here. There's a general community blog, developers, and Sitecore MVPs. This one is a private group, I know, that's limited to the 200 MVPs worldwide. Maybe there's others here that Sitecore employees have that I can't see as well. But what, again, Sitecore has chosen to do with this for the most part is all the groups essentially contain a forum and questions and answers. So I'll not spend time going through this, but that's one of the powers, I think, of Telligent is there's a lot of different capabilities there, and how you configure them inside your groups is really up to you. But at its basis, it provides an excellent way to kind of connect users to their content and that notification engine, all inside that idea of the groups. And then it's supplemented by all these powerful apps that they bring to the table. So just looking at my clock, we had said we were going to hit the end of the demo. It's 45 minutes past the hour, and I think I'm just coming up on that. So with that said,
well, thank you, Glenn. It's Kevin Cahill again. Just wanted to open it up to the crowd and see if there's any questions. If you want to just submit them through the chat screen, we can do that. Either to myself or directly to Glenn.
I see a few things starting to come in here.
Great.
Yeah, so there was one that I pretty much always get asked this question. How does licensing work? That's always a complicated one. Short answer is, feel free to call me. I'll pull up my contact information. We'll put you in touch with the right people and sort that out. Obviously, if you're an existing customer of Sitecore or Telligent, you probably have your contacts already. But that's something we can help you through. Okay, someone just muted me for a moment there. Sorry, folks. I do see one more that had come in around, how does the single sign-on work? So in the demo environment, of course, I was, I log in manually because it's easier to switch users when I need to. But normally when this is deployed, it's usually connected to Active Directory or a similar system. And then the connection between Sitecore and Telligent is managed by the Telligent SDK. So it's really about making Sitecore auth with your Active Directory or your SAML-based or your OAuth or whatever it is that you're using. We've got different ways to connect. And then the connection to Telligent is handled behind the scenes again through Sitecore. So that's all kind of out of the box, if you will, if there's an existing provider for Sitecore. One final question came in just around kind of mobile access. The underlying frameworks used in our product is the Bootstrap CSS framework. So the Bootstrap itself is responsive, so it's a responsive web design. It will scale to fit different screen sizes, and then that's something that you may refine depending on your particular design criteria. And then one that just came in here: do you ship with pre-built themed templates? So there's a default skin, if you will, that's kind of laid over it. It's a little bit cleaner than what I'm showing now. But you essentially treat the user experience, the creative, the information architecture as part of your implementation. So you would usually design that yourself and then lay it over top. Another one we've got, the Telligent Sitecore. Sorry, I just scrolled past me. Does Telligent Sitecore profile integrate with Skype, Office 365, or other collaboration platforms? So yes, absolutely. I briefly touched on some examples actually already. So both Sitecore and Telligent can connect to SharePoint repositories, whether they're on-prem or cloud. And in terms of authorization, absolutely. The example I gave of the calendar or the email being able to be pulled from Exchange or Office 365, we can absolutely connect all those systems. Something I didn't state: Sitecore.net, Telligent.net, and well, they're Microsoft, so it's relatively straightforward to make those talk together. And there are pre-existing integrations, both from Sitecore, Telligent, and as part of the Keystone product to make that happen.
Okay, great. Anything else there, Glenn?
They're scrolling by here fast here, Kevin. You showed integration for personal calendars, but is there anything out of the box regarding shared calendars, or would that be custom development? Great question. So the calendar module or component that I showed can do overlays. So if the calendars are in Office 365 or Exchange, then yes, that component can support that idea of shared calendars. So yes, is the short version, if you're using Exchange or Office 365. Next one was, if we have an intranet on SharePoint, can we keep some of the lists and folders in SharePoint? How does it work together? So easiest way to go about that would be the SharePoint Connect framework for Sitecore allows you to synchronize data into Sitecore, make it look like it's present there. Once that happens, all the Keystone components that are in the intranet that are about documents and lists and roll-ups can treat that content just like it's in Sitecore. So yes, absolutely, we can do that. You can configure that connection to be one way, or it can actually be bidirectional if you wanted to. So you could send Sitecore to SharePoint as well. And then I think we've pretty much hit the end of the questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't see any more on my end. So Glenn, I'd like to thank you for your time today and the walk through the solution. Just a reminder to everyone, if you'd like to follow up with Glenn directly, This is contact info there. You should be getting links to the presentation and to the recording coming up. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to join us today. Glenn, any closing comments?
No, just thank you, Kevin, for joining us, and to everyone for joining us again, thank you. And if you are looking for any further questions, my email is there. If you're looking for a more tailored demo for your use case, absolutely happy to set something up. So feel free to reach out.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye now.